Hey guys, it's Jill with Jill vs. Life. Hopping on here tonight to talk about my struggles with anxiety. And I'll start by saying that this ended up being a much more difficult thing to talk about than I thought it would be. I kind of have struggled all day. I didn't work. I was off today. I had lots of other fun things that I got to do, but I planned on doing this, this afternoon a lot earlier, and I just really struggled with what I was going to say and just kind of how I would tell this story without, I want it to be impactful. I want it to reach someone. I want it to help someone, but I don't at all look for pity with this story because I don't feel like my journey is, difficult at all in comparison to a lot of people. So basically, ultimately, what, I even kind of started to bargain with myself that maybe I just wouldn't get on tonight. I had, put it in my schedule and said I was going to do it, and I'm, I've talked about how I'm tired of breaking promises to myself, but I had kind of convinced myself that maybe I would just not go live and I would just put all this in my blog, and I may not talk about everything on here tonight, and there likely will be more details in my blog, so you'll want, if you want the whole story, you'll want to get on there and read that later. But anyways, I'll quit rambling and just kind of start and tell my story a little bit. What ultimately made me decide that I wanted to talk about this was that as I was kind of climbing out of my hole of, dark, just self-loathing and anxiety and all those things that really kind of crippled me in my late 20s, early 30s, when I would listen to someone else tell their story and, talk about struggles, and they were the same exact struggles that I had, that I was just certain that, I was the only one that could ever possibly feel that way about myself or say those things to myself. And so I just wanted to get on and share. I'm going to share a little bit on here, and then, like I said, there will be more in my blog, and I will post that up as soon as I have that done tonight. So anyways, I'll just kind of start with a little bit of history of where most of the anxiety that I've really struggled with has been kind of in the form of social anxiety, and at times it was pretty severe social anxiety. I try to think back to when it started, and I don't really know, and I've kind of been in some therapy sessions and kind of trying to talk through some of this stuff, and I carried some guilt because I always felt like people that dealt with anxiety probably had, things in their childhood that they were recovering from or struggled with, and I had a great childhood. I wanted for nothing, and I had very supportive parents. They were around and they were encouraging. Like I really wanted for nothing there. So I always felt like, I kind of said to myself, Jill, what is wrong with you? Why are you so, why do you have this struggle and this problem? But the more that I'm learning about, mental struggles and illness, and that there isn't anything wrong with any of us. It just is, and you just are you. But anyway, so I think back to junior high probably is when some of it started, when you start to kind of realize that you start to compare yourself to other people, and your talents and the way you look and the way clothes fit you, and all those things that we just start to compare ourselves about. And I think that's where my anxieties probably started. As I went through junior high into high school, I was just certain that I was completely overweight and like the grossest, ugliest person that there was. And I look back at myself now and I would literally give my left arm to look like that again. But that's not why we're here. So anyways, through junior high and high school, I kind of played this, outgoing, bubbly, just, wanted to be a part of everything. I wanted to be, I was everybody's friend. I wanted to be at every party, every event. I was social butterfly. And although I don't even know that I realized at the time, like, that was a struggle for me. Like, I didn't realize how introverted I was at the time. I just knew that deep down inside, I knew that what I was putting out into the world and what I was portraying wasn't exactly who I was. And I don't think I was alone in that. I think that I probably had a lot of friends that, you're in high school, nobody's their real self. And so anyways, I did everything possible, extracurricular and social, and you name it, I was there in high school. So moved on to college and backed way off. Like, I had burnt myself out on extracurricular activities. I didn't want to do any of that. I started partying. I partied a lot in college, and it wasn't like I dove into an alcohol problem, but my liver might beg to differ anyways. But that was kind of when I started to really notice my struggle with social anxiety. I noticed that it was harder for me, especially to be around people that I didn't know, like my friends from the dorms and friends that I was pretty close to. I had no problem, going to parties with them. But then when we were around other people that I didn't know, that's when I kind of started to crawl into my cave a little bit. And so by the time I went to grad school, it was pretty full blown by then. So, I was close with my roommates and the people that I lived with and a few other people, but I really had a pretty tight circle, and I really started to do this thing where I would, make commitments to people, and especially social things, and then at the last minute, I'd back out. I'd find any reason I could to back out, because the thought of, being, trying to be social just paralyzed me. And so that continued to get worse and worse and worse, into my, post-graduation, into my, late 20s and early 30s, and got to the point that I literally did nothing with any friends. I mean, I relied on my family and Tyler, and I mean, that was my social circle. And thank God for social media, because I could develop these friendships, and I'm grateful for a lot of the friendships that I developed during this time, because they were kind of what held me up. But as far as real world connections, I totally couldn't handle it. And I mean, my anxiety was so much that if I did try to go do something out of that comfort zone, I mean, there were physical symptoms, I would feel sick to my stomach. I would, sweat profusely, just crazy things. When I look back now, that it seems surreal that all that happened. So anyways, it got to the point that, I kind of didn't know what I was going to do. And, along, hand in hand with this social anxiety getting worse and worse and worse was my weight getting, higher and higher as I went through college, and then after college, grad school, and it just kept climbing. And that, then the really, really ugly self-talk, started to happen, and just really ugly things that I would say to myself that I look back now, and it just really makes me sad that there wasn't something inside me that could say to that girl, none of those things matter. The things that I thought people cared about, nobody cared about. People just wanted me to be me, just like I want, you to be you, and people to just we love people for who they are, and I just could never accept that people actually accepted me for who I was. And so, anyways, fast forward to, a couple years ago, and I've really been on a journey of healing the past 2 years. A good friend of mine invited me to join a 30-day fitness challenge, and this is not a plug for that. That's where my healing took place. But so I did, I joined, and I thought this was going to be a 30 days of just following along and being a part of this, and eventually failing, and then I could say I tried and go back into my hole. Well, I completed that 30 days, and I had a little bit of success, and that built a little bit of confidence, and I started to build a little bit of relationships. Granted, it was an online, challenge group, accountability group, whatever you want to call it. But I started to build some relationships that felt just a little bit different than others I had. I was kind of opening myself up. I was feeling a little more confident. There was encouragement to, look into those things as to why you wanted to better yourself. And, so I stuck around for another month and another month. And then about the 6-month mark, there was a live event, and some of the girls had invited me to meet them there. It was in Denver. There were people traveling from outside of Denver, and I was actually probably the closest one. And I laugh because I wish I could have had a recording of the dialogue that was going on in my head leading up to this event. I mean, I was, the growth that I'd experienced over the past few months was really encouraging me to, keep growing. No, you need to go. It literally felt like the angel and the devil on my shoulders, like arguing over what I should do. So, I wanted to back out. I mean, literally, I'm like pulling into the parking lot where this event was located, and I'm still not sure that I'm going to get out of the car and go in. And, anyways, long story short, I did. I got out, and, I was petrified, almost completely paralyzed. Going in there, I was, in a horribly nervous sweat, and then, half an hour into the event, I looked around, I realized that there was nobody there that was judging me. There was nobody there that cared what I looked like. There was nobody there that, looked at me and thought, oh my God, that girl's not fit enough to be here, because that's what I kept telling myself on the way there. And it was like the turning point for me. I will forever remember that event, because I looked around and these people were just like happy that I was there. I mean, like literally, genuinely happy that I was there and being a part of this. And so that was a real wake-up call for me at 35 years old. But better 35 than 45, right? Anyways, yeah, so that was kind of, I'll share more about my, how I kind of have turned this around some. I still struggle with it. I've just gotten better at accepting that I am a semi-outgoing, love to laugh, love people, but I'm still an introvert. And so those kinds of things, I think just accepting that and learning how to cope with it that way has been part of my road to some normalcy and some self-acceptance. So anyways, that I rambled way longer than I intended to tonight. I hope that maybe just a little part of my story resonated with you and maybe made you feel like you aren't alone. I would love to talk to anyone that struggles with this. If you have comments, post them below. If you want to message me and talk to me, I would love to. That was, kind of a big thing that helped me with my journey, was just talking about it. The more I talked about it, the more normal it became, and the more I could talk about it then, and the more that I accepted myself about it. So anyways, thanks for listening tonight, you guys. I super appreciate it. Like I said, there's more details in the blog of kind of my my journey and my story. I shared more details than I intended to on here tonight, but that's me. I inherited the verbalization from my dad, I think. But anyways, I so appreciate all the support and you guys being on tonight. And again, this is Jill with Jill vs. Life, and I will talk to you all soon. Good night.